And that is your opening bell on Wall Street. Let's do a check of the market. Still seeing pressure on the major averages, on track for the third day of declines here, especially when you look at the S&P 500 down over 1%, but the NASDAQ nearing declines of 1.5% as we hear that opening bell on Wall Street. Tech certainly leading this sell-off, though when you look at markets on an equal weight basis, you're also seeing a lot of the weakness coming in on healthcare and financials, some of the sectors, particularly when you look at financials, that have really seen a huge run-up following the election of Donald Trump for his second time in the White House, seeing a little bit of steam coming off of that trade here. And also just want to quickly mention the moves that we are seeing in Treasuries, still seeing a little bit of a move to the downside in yields at the longer end of the curve today, and that potentially could be an interesting dynamic for stocks moving forward here.
Certainly. Let's talk about how far we have come really over the last 12 months. Let's take a look at some of the biggest movers and decliners of the year. Let's start with the sector action and some of the action that we're seeing there. When you take a look at the outperformers there, many of the names that you just talked about there, Maddie, you got communication services, technology, consumer discretionary, financials among the outperformers of that group. A lot of that group seeing a bit of a rotation out of those trades here as we do close out the trading year and the year, obviously, for 2024, looking ahead to 2025. When you take a look at the top S&P performers for the year, a lot of those names that we have talked so many times about here on Yahoo Finance, you got a name like Palantir, that stock up just around 350% from the start of the year. You got Vistra Corp also among the top performers. Nvidia, when you talk about the outperformance of the Mag 7 trade, that stock up pretty substantially here on a year-to-date basis. You're looking at gains of just nearly 180%, around 177%. On the flip side, some of those worst performers if we can pull that up on the screen, you got Walgreens, Moderna, Intel among those decliners there. But again, it has been another record year for the S&P. You've got the S&P 500 here closing at record highs 57 times. And Maddie, when you compare that to historical numbers here, it's among the top 5 years that we have seen the S&P reach that high of record highs here during the year of 2024.
It's really interesting when you look at those best performing stocks that you already ran through, Shauna. There's not this massive concentration in tech specifically. Obviously, tech is in there. You've got Nvidia as the second biggest gainer year to date, but you've also got a lot of nuclear plays. You mentioned Vistra Energy, also Constellation Energy, among the names that those hyperscalers are looking at partnerships with as they do look for some form of energy to meet the demands of the AI boom. We're certainly seeing that with the 3 Mile Island deal over the course of this year. Then you've got United Airlines, the fourth biggest gainer of the year in there. Obviously, Broadcom considered now maybe the 8th member of the Mag 7 as the Batman acronym takes hold here. So really interesting to see kind of the rotation that we see even within tech and the drivers of that trade moving forward.
Yeah, especially, and I think that really gets to the conversation of what exactly next year is going to look like. When you take a look at, there's still, I think overall you can say strategists are very bullish just about the returns that we are going to get next year, especially on the heels of what have been 2 record-setting years. But again, when you take into account that maybe the gains won't be to the extent of what we've seen over the last 2 years, and that we could potentially see, and there's an expectation that we will see a further broadening out of this market participation, then exactly what that holds for the Mag 7, of course, is a huge question going into the new year.